be discerning and ask yourself, am I just being reliable or am I being promotable? What type of project work is going to get me ahead in this organization versus just automatically saying yes? And it's time to draw in some boundaries around this. But that might cause some guilt in you. It might even cause shame. You might feel really selfish for doing this. Know that that is all very normal, and it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you actually have to start looking after yourself.
Hannah Hotline. Email Hannah Hotline.
Welcome back to another episode of Hannah Hotline. So pumped to be here with you today with another juicy listener email. So as usual, if you want to submit an email to Hannah Hotline to be featured on the podcast or the Daily Telegraph, you can email hello@hannahkissel.com. I love reading these career dilemmas. I love answering them. So let's just jump right in. Dear Hannah Hotline, love the podcast. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. I'll get straight into it. I'm a very hard worker and very good at my job. I've historically given a lot to my career and progressed well, and I'm on the track to becoming a GM. Good for you. I'm the first one in and often the last one out. Okay, not as good here. I'm starting to see some red flags. I always get called out by leaders for my amazing work ethic. I bet you do. Being the first one in and the last one out, organizations love it when you overcommit yourself to them. However, lately, I've been going through some health issues, and my doctors have suggested it's stress-related. They suggested I cut back my hours at work. There it is. It always comes up. However, this really scares me, but I've also noticed that I seem to be getting a larger workload than any of my other teammates who are at the same level as me. I'm always getting put on extra projects and asked to lead initiatives. This gets me a lot of airtime with the executive team, but I also feel like I'm almost punished for doing my job really well. This is super common, and this is called a competency tax, where you are getting almost rewarded for doing well at your job with more work. And sometimes that can be a really good thing, but it has to be the right type of work in order for it to be worth it for you to do. I'm also not paid more for any of these projects. Yeah, that's also not surprising. Usually people aren't. I don't know how to cut back on all the extra work that I'm doing and how to say no, but I'm afraid if I don't, I will continue to struggle with my health. Help from working hard and wasting away. Okay, so here's what's going on. You are an extremely hard worker. You are recognized for your hard work, it sounds like. I don't know if you're being compensated for your hard work. It doesn't sound like you mentioned that you get put on extra projects, but you don't get paid more, which is definitely, an issue that we're going to talk about in a second. And it sounds like your doctors are saying to you, there are some health issues here. They're stress related. If you don't change or cut back, they're going to continue progressing. So this is really serious. And I'm wondering what it is that you want, because a lot of this is what doctors want, what your team wants. But you mentioned, okay, you don't know how to cut back on any of the extra work and how to say no, but you're afraid if you don't, you'll continue to struggle with your health. But what is it that you actually want here? And I would really recommend looking deep and asking yourself that, because oftentimes, I see this pattern with really high performers where a lot of their self-worth comes in their performance. Their self-worth is tied up in their performance. So they really like doing really well because they get the praise of the organization. They get the praise of leaders. Or they might think that if they don't do well, that then somehow they're not worthy or somehow they're not good enough. So this is really great for an organization, but can be very bad and detrimental personally, because 9 times out of 10, health issues start popping up. And these aren't just like little health issues. Like I've coached people with Hashimoto's, I've coached people with cancer, I've coached people through, severe autoimmune diseases that are stress related. And I'm not saying that it's your fault at all. I'm definitely not saying that. But I'm saying that stress has a way of wreaking havoc on the body. And even the World Health Organization did a study a few years ago that said that, people that worked 55 hours a week or more, they're linked to higher stroke and heart disease risk. So you're really playing with fire here, being the first one in, the last one out, and really looking at why are you doing that? That's some sort of deeper exploration there of why are you committing so much to work and even overcommitting. So the next step is, what do you do about it? Because like you said, you've almost fallen into this trap, and it is like a competency trap where you are being quote unquote rewarded for doing a really great job with extra work, and you're not getting paid more. Now, I do want to say this can be quite nuanced because some of the work, like you said, could actually create more visibility with the executive team. Some of the work might be working with senior stakeholders that you might not otherwise get visibility into, or that might not otherwise know you. So sometimes it actually can be a good thing. But if it's consistent that you are doing more work, you're being put on more projects than your coworkers, then that's an issue. And also, just because you're doing more work, that doesn't make you promotable. It makes you reliable. And that's a big difference, because promotability is often from visibility. It's often from influence. It's not necessarily from just executing and getting shit done that your manager needs to get off their plate. So I would really look at, what are the types of projects you're being put on? Are they actually going to progress your career, or are they just more grunt work projects and people know that you'll just do them because you always get them done? So that's a really good distinction to make. So here are some like practical next steps that you can take. Number one, you can choose whether to alert your manager to what's going on with you medically. If the doctors are saying that, this is stress related, you need to pull back, I would always advise getting a note saying that. This note can be very brief. It can just state that you need to either reduce your hours, reduce your workload. You might get a lot of fear hearing that. You might think, no, I'm not the type of person that can do that. I can't reduce my hours. I can't reduce my workload. That could cause a lot of stress in you. But really ask yourself, like, what is worth it? Is it worth over delivering at work constantly, or is your health worth more to you than that? So it's always a big dilemma. So number one, decide if you want to disclose about the medical condition or not. If you do want to disclose, and I would encourage you to, then provide them with a doctor's note about it. Have it be very brief. It doesn't need to go into a lot of detail. And also, you don't need to go into a lot of detail. You don't need to go into explanation. You can just say, I'm experiencing some medical issues. It can be as brief as that. Now, second, start documenting all of the projects that you're doing if you're not doing that already. And I would actually show your manager this, show your people leader this, and say, well, here's what I'm already working on. I'm actually fully at capacity right now. What's the biggest priority? Do you want me to drop something in order to take on this new thing? Or if you are more interested in one type of project than the other, you can just state, I'd prefer to work on more of these types of projects for me. They get me more visibility. This is more important to the organization. And this type of project here, I don't really know if it's necessarily, within my skill set. And also really I hate the word selfish around this, because you might think that this is selfish, but be discerning and ask yourself, am I just being reliable, or am I being promotable? What type of project work is going to get me ahead in this organization versus just automatically saying yes? And it's time to draw in some boundaries around this, but that might cause some guilt in you. It might even cause shame. You might feel really selfish for doing this. Know that that is all very normal, and it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you actually have to start looking after yourself. And I was in a client session the other day, and she was really starting to overcome overwork. It's something that she'd been doing a lot, really working on people pleasing. And she reframed it as, it's not selfish, it's sane. It is sane to say no to these things. So I will say the same thing to you. It is not actually selfish to say no to these projects. It is sane because your doctors are telling you your health is at risk. That is something to take very seriously. So you don't want to do that. Now, really, like, I also want you to zoom out in your life. So you mentioned that you're the first one in, last one out. Just kind of thinking more holistically here about the stress that you're experiencing. Do you have any hobbies? This is like the first thing that I go to with clients where I'm like, where do you get joy in your life? Or is it just, full like in out work? Granted, like different seasons of life, of course, people that have very young children, they don't often have time for hobbies. Although I would say if you're in that stage of life, definitely listen to my podcast episode with Andrea Bombino on motherhood. I'll link this in the show notes if you're listening to this on Spotify or on Apple, because that was a really good way of how to prioritize yourself and your creativity, even when your children are in young stages. So, but if you're not in that stage of life, which I don't think you are because you probably would have mentioned it, what do you do for fun? What do you actually enjoy? Or do you just work? And you could also really enjoy work, but I'm guessing not because it's causing you some stress-induced illnesses. So this could be anything from swing dancing. I mean, I've said it on the podcast a few times. My partner and I are swing dancers. I always joke that we're swingers. He rolls his eyes. He says we're definitely not swingers. But I love my swing dancing community. I write fiction on the side. I, do yoga, but like what is it that you can do? Is it gardening? Is it cooking? Is it coloring? Is it painting? Whatever it is, but just find something outside of work. Also, that's not competitive. This is a really important, crucial thing. Don't pick something that you want to get super good at. Just pick something that you like, that you think is fun. And that sometimes tends to alleviate a lot more stress because you actually have an outlet that has nothing to do with your performance, especially since you seem like, quite a type A, high performing person. Get something in your life that has nothing to do with you being good. So let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. Good luck with everything. I hope that your health goes okay. And as well, if you want to be featured on Hannah Hotline, you can email hello@hannahkissel.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to feature your dilemmas. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bonka, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominique Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominique on Instagram at Dominique Jingles or email dominiqueenglish04@gmail.com.